better go ahead. I run it up in the right kind of yonder. What? Nigga, shit so fucking hard, hey. What? Urban sad to sad, I've been serving and the fag, I've been serving and the fab out the pen. Now we need to work around the platform and drip around the cloud. Never serving and the bag, out the pen. I love my nigga.
This live stream may contain content that could be perceived as shocking or offensive, but it is presented solely for educational purposes. Viewer discretion is advised. We strive to adhere to community guidelines, and any potentially sensitive material is shared with the intent of fostering understanding and learning.
Yo, what's going on, guys? It's your boy, Atypical Security Guard, coming to you with the Sunday night live stream. We are live. We are here. We're here. Let's get it popping. Guys, we're going to get right into it. Today's topic, are cops still necessary? Top 5, yes and no. Now, this is going to be potentially a controversial topic, but I don't understand why. And that's part of the problem, right? If we were to talk about anything else, if we were to talk about, like, I don't know, should the college football playoff have 4 teams or 12? If we were to talk about, should security guards wear tactical uniforms or classical uniforms? If we were to talk about anything, it's a conversation, right? And in and of itself, the fact that we can't have a legitimate conversation about law enforcement without people getting upset or triggered or butthurt is part of the problem, right? Law enforcement is a profession. I don't know if you guys are aware of this or not. I don't want to upset any potential, cops who get their feelings in a bunch. You're working in a profession. You're working in a profession. It's a great profession. Being a doctor is a great profession. Being a lawyer is a great profession. Being a teacher is a great profession. But we have to get past this idea that, like, we're putting people on pedestals based on what it is that you're doing. I'm a veteran. It took me until probably 5 years ago before I would even think about taking a veteran's discount or taking any sort of like veteran free meal or something like that. Like, I didn't sign up to serve my country for any sort of benefit from the average citizen or the person that's out there in the public. I did my service, I did my job, I did my duty. That doesn't elevate me to any sort of higher status. So the simple fact that we can't have this conversation is part of the problem, but we're going to talk about it today. And we're not talking about it to be rude or disrespectful or mean or anything like that. We're just talking. It's just a conversation, right? All of this clearly stems from the situation that happened. I guess that this all happened in November, but the news of the Acorn shooting that happened in Florida, that all came out this week. So just a quick reminder of what happened. This is a video from the Telegraph, I believe. I will put down the link to the actual video, give all credit and rights reserved to the Telegraph that has this video and owns the rights to this video. I am utilizing this under fair use. Just a quick reminder of what recently took place with 2 police officers in Florida that will lead into our conversation. Here we go.
Shots fired! Shots fired! Shots fired! Shots fired! Shots fired! Shots fired! You know. I'm hit! What? I'm not! In the car! I was shot through the car! Oh! I'm good, I'm good.
So you guys are completely aware of that situation. Now, after watching multiple videos and commentaries and discussions about the situation that took place, I have a different theory. I think that regardless of what led that police officer to responding the way that he did, I think that the Acorn story was completely made up after the fact. I don't know if this police officer had a mental breakdown. I don't know if he had a panic attack. I'm not sure if he was potentially drunk or on drugs, but I am almost certain, based on the recording that I heard of the conversation between the investigators and the two police officers that were involved, that this story was completely fabricated and fed to this officer, that they watched the video, they tried to find any sort of justification as to why he would have done that, and that this was a secondary story that came up after the fact. Now, that's my conjecture. I'm not saying that that's what happened, but if you were to be in a court of law and you were to have to swear in a testimony as to what is more likely to have happened, that officer responded like that based off the sound of an acorn hitting the top of the vehicle, in that his partner responded in kind based off of what he told her to do, would that be more likely or less likely than the officer having some sort of episode? And I'll let you guys make that decision. Okay. Now, there's a couple of things I want to go over here in relation to not only the situation with the acorn, but in general. Now, clearly in 2020, there was a lot of conversations that came out about defunding the police. I do not agree with defunding the police at all. I think that is a horrible idea. I think to take any resources or financial aid away from our law enforcement officers to handicap them in any other way is completely unacceptable. I do think that there are some areas that law enforcement has become more of a hindrance than a benefit to the everyday average public. Now, I'm going to give you guys some numbers. I did some research for tonight's live stream. I'm just sharing this information with you. You guys can take this information, do with it what you will, okay? So in 2020, the city of Chicago agreed to pay $20 million to the family of Laquan McDonald. This was a black teenager who was fatally shot by police officers in 2014. This settlement was the largest in Chicago history. In 2017, in New York City, they settled a lawsuit brought by the family of Eric Garner for $5.9 million. Garner died after being placed in a chokehold by a police officer in 2014, sparking widespread protest. In 2019, the city of LA agreed to pay $23.7 million to settle a lawsuit brought by the family of a cyclist who was fatally shot by police in 2015. This settlement was one of the largest in Los Angeles history. The cost of the George Floyd uprising, and this is coming from the insurance company Axios, they estimated that the insured loss from property damage was at least $2 billion. Making it one of the costliest civil disorders in U.S. history. And on top of that, the Department of Justice reports the total amount paid out in law enforcement settlements for violations to the public over the last decade could be estimated in the tens of billions of dollars. Guys, at the end of the day, all of that money that we're talking about, that comes from the taxpayers. If the situation happens where something goes south and the city is forced to pay out, that money comes from your pocket and from my pocket. These aren't situations where, the police departments are being put into a position where they're having to pay out these settlements that are going to, families and individuals in these situations. These are situations where we as taxpayers are on the hook for that. That's a lot of money, guys. Tens of billions of dollars in damage. That's not even taking into account, things that weren't insured, personal property from people. This is simply just, municipal and buildings, and it's insane. And a lot of these things are stemming from situations that could be avoided, but based on some of the training, based on some of the way that our policing is handled, that is handled, these are the results, right? I'm going to show you guys something real quick here. We talked about this the other day. This is the Dave Grossman Killology training that is going around in a lot of departments right now. And I am of the opinion that once we have made our police departments more tactical, once we have instituted more tactical training across the board, that for the most part is needed based on the things that they're dealing with, based on the cartels that are coming into this country, based on the increased gang violence that is happening in this country. We've kind of hit this tipping point where now our law enforcement is so tactically trained and so tactically engaged that we basically have the municipal military force in each one of our cities. And so in situations where things go south, our officers are responding the way that they would respond if they were in a foreign theater. Let's look at this information coming from CNN on Dave Grossman's Killology. Not a fan of CNN. I'm just sharing this video for the sake of what we're talking about. Here we go.
Warrior training has become a sort of a catch-all for a type of training that tries to emphasize this idea that police officers need to tap into their kind of inner warrior, their inner survival instinct. And it essentially instructs officers to treat every individual that they interact with as a potential threat. And the downside of that is that cops are sort of trained to escalate rather than de-escalate situations.
There's been silly people that don't like the use of that word warrior with law enforcement. Is our nation at war? Is our cops the frontline troops in this war? Yeah. And they don't want to use the word warrior? They're in denial. They're just in stinking denial.
Lieutenant Colonel Dave Grossman is a former U.S. Army Ranger and creator of a type of training known as Killology. Over the last 20 years, he's trained educators and law enforcement at the federal, state, and regional level in all 50 states, according to his website.
Violence is your tool. Violence is your enemy. Violence is the realm you live in, and you must master it.
While warrior training has been around for years, there isn't any real research showing how effective it actually is, and several recent high-profile incidents have put it under increased scrutiny. The officer that shot and killed Philando Castile in 2016 took a bulletproof warrior training session, according to the city of St. Anthony, Minnesota. And George Floyd's family references Killology training in warrior-style cultures in the lawsuit they filed after his death.
So let's talk about the claims of law enforcement. If you were to ask a law enforcement officer or the general public what their role is, what do you think that they would say? My partner that I worked with last night, he's a former police officer, and I asked him, I said, what would you say the role of law enforcement is? If you were to give me 5 things, what do you think that they would be? He had a couple of different answers, but these were the 5 things that I came up with based on my feelings of what a police officer would say and some of the things that he said, but these would be my thoughts. Number 1 would be to serve and protect. Serve and protect the public, right? Number 2 would be to prevent crime. Number 3 would be to investigate and solve crimes. Number 4, to apprehend, arrest, and transport criminals. And number 5 would be to enforce laws. So if we look at these 5 things, let's go back to number 1. In your general understanding and interaction with law enforcement officers, whatever that is, do you feel that the police department that you are informed of and the people that you know, the people that you see, your daily general interaction, do you believe that the police are there to serve and protect? Now, we've often talked about the fact that the Supreme Court has upheld that the police have no duty to protect you or save your life, right? It is less likely that a police officer is going to set out in the operation of his duties to protect the life of an average citizen. We were talking about, we weren't talking about, but on a different channel last night, Sean was talking about domestic calls and whether or not security guards who are working in an apartment complex or some type of housing development, if there's a domestic call, could a security guard respond to that? And based on the situations and how you have to handle those domestic calls. But I would counter that by saying that in a situation where there is a domestic issue, either in a home or in an apartment complex, in a housing project, When a police officer shows up, the protocol is not to rush in and save that person. Is that an anecdotal situation that could happen? Yes. But if one officer responds, he's going to wait for his partner to get there. I think that Sean even alluded to that you're going to wait for your partner to get there. You're going to make that approach. You're going to knock on that door. You're going to let the situation breathe before you reach in there. That is a clear understanding that in that moment and in that situation where potentially a person is under threat or under duress, it's not the police obligation to go in and save that person. You look at situations like Uvalde. You look at situations like, let's stick with Uvalde, right? Did those police officers serve and protect at that moment? We have countless situations where we can look at something that is happening, something that is going on, where based on the protocol and the safety of the officers, and I get this 110%, they are not rushing into that situation to neutralize that threat or deal with that problem, right? Great example was a video that I showed you guys the other day. I don't remember. I think this comes from the Daily Mail, or maybe this comes from Cop Watch, but there's a sheriff's department and a police department that are literally having a dick measuring contest when there's a hostage situation going on. I'm going to pull this video up. Let me take this down. Let me pull this video up for you guys. Watch this real quick. Stand by.
That's not going to happen.
You can get the out of my face. I don't give a who you are. Okay? This is my county, too.
Back up, man.
Outflash is 5-6.
77.
Hello.
Are you sure? I'm going to SWAT call out.
Okay, sir. This is could you do an 85 and a 55?
I was going
where?
call out.
Where we going?
The SWAT call out right over here.
I didn't know we had one.
We have an armed guy barricaded in the house. Used to be a police officer. And
where at?
Right down here on.
Here in Lexington?
Yeah.
We have an armed person we don't know about. All right, I'll call our chief and let him know. 301 next. According to the Cleveland County Sheriff, we have a hostage situation at that location.
I'm going to speed this up just to get to the point of what we're talking about here. So just keep in mind that right now they have been informed that there's a hostage situation. There's a man barricaded with a rifle in a location. Both the sheriff's department and the police department are now going to the scene.
According to the call, it says Lexington was notified, they refused to respond according to our call. Okay, I don't know who the said that. First of all, sir, I know you're the chief. I'm just telling you the call. I don't appreciate all of this going on and nobody notified me thing about it.
Okay. I'm sorry, what's your name?
If you want later.
Sir.
He's a lieutenant.
I am too. You're not going to talk about chief like that, sir.
That's not going to happen.
You can get the out of my face. I don't give a who you are. Okay? This is my county, too.
Back up, man. Back up. No, you don't.
He just said, what's
This is going to be good.
according to the call,
You need to stop.
Lexington PD was notified.
Chill out. Back up. Everything's going to be okay. But you need to back up.
I get it that you're chief.
You can back up. Negative.
But this right here ain't what
We're not going to be disrespectful here.
Okay.
Sheriff, you need to back up out of my face, sir.
You have no authority.
You're not going to tell me what to do, my You're not going to get in my sheriff's face, just like you told me.
So again, keep in mind that there's a active hostage situation going on at that moment, which takes me into number 2, which is to prevent crime. Guys, it's impossible for police officers to prevent crime. Can they deter crime? Absolutely. Can security deter crime? Yeah. Can a dog deter crime? Can a sign that says that you have a security system deter crime? Sure. Like we don't know what hasn't happened because it hasn't happened. Like we don't get to validate or quantify things that haven't happened yet. But the police primarily respond to crime. And again, when I say this, I'm not saying this in a disparaging manner. I'm just having a critical thinking conversation. Let me get to the crux of my issue here. Everything related to law enforcement is a fallacy. And the fallacy of law enforcement is that the state will protect you. For whatever reason, and I can go into 100 different thought processes about why this is the way that this has been presented to us. And I want you guys to think about what I'm going to say to you in a critical fashion. Take any personal feelings off the table and just listen to what I'm saying, because I can already tell that this conversation is going to be misconstrued. I'm not anti-police. I'm not. The state has sold to the public that they will be the protective arm in society, when in reality, they just can't. We don't have enough police officers to be everywhere at every time, at every moment, to prevent every single bad thing that is going to happen. And even if we did, it is not, as upheld by the Supreme Court, it is not their duty or responsibility to do that. And even if it was, they have their own protocol, their own systems of operating, their own ideas of what's best for them at that moment based on the circumstances that might lead them to not intervening. Ultimately, the state does not want you or me or any of its citizens to have the idea that I will be my own first responder and I will take responsibility for my own safety and my own protection. Let's go back to that domestic violence situation. Sean was talking about all of the process that come after having interaction with the domestic violence situation. And I say this all respectfully, but he said, the police officer goes in, one person detains or makes the arrest on the guy. Let's just assume that the guy is the aggressor. The guy is now placed into a vehicle, and now we're giving the female victim all of this information on services that are provided to her, people that she can reach out to if she needs assistance, ways that the government or the system can provide for her family moving forward. Do you guys understand? Like right now, just in that one situation of a domestic violence situation, there are 7 different agencies, 4 different nonprofits, all of the people that are employed all the way through that line, from the police officer to the secretary, to the attorneys, to the people that are going to set up the parole and probation. There is an entire system that is predicated on that interaction between the law enforcement officer and the individuals that were involved in that moment. Whereas if we had a system where each person was responsible for their own well-being, you have a situation where a man decides to put his hands on a woman. He puts her in fear for her life. And instead of her calling 911 and waiting for people to get there to potentially deal with this issue, she handles it. Problem solved. And in almost any and every situation that we can think of, we have the ability to deal with those situations in and of themselves right there at that moment. But so many systems in our society are set up based on the introduction of the judicial system into a potential situation. That to me is not necessary and it's not needed. And ultimately, where so many people benefit from that, so many people are able to have employment from that, ultimately it ends up costing all of us more money, to the tune of tens of billions of dollars. Because in order to have police officers on the street able to do their job, to interact with the potential violence that they might come in contact with, we have to do things like tactically train them. We have to do things like put them through the bulletproof program or train them in killology, so that when they are now in the vicinity of a potential situation and an acorn hits the top of their vehicle, they're mag dumping 17 rounds into a vehicle where nothing has happened. This is the problem with our current system of law enforcement. I don't have all the answers. I am simply having a critical thinking conversation about the problems that are coming from the way that the system is set up, the way that our police officers are being trained, and how that's ultimately playing out in situations like the 2 videos that I just shared with you guys. Now, on the other hand, where could we potentially, I don't want to say remove police officers, but what are some areas where it would be better served to not have them working in that capacity? And the reason why I say that is because all of the things that I'm going to bring up are areas that ultimately lead to issues that end up causing greater problems, more problems than benefits. The majority of your negative interactions with law enforcement that lead to someone getting harmed, hurt, or shot, and that's on either side of the equation. The person is harming or shooting a police officer, or the police officer is harming or shooting the individual. I'm not getting into the particulars of how that happens or what leads to that. But the vast majority of these interactions where someone is getting harmed or shot comes from traffic enforcement. Now, we have the technology now, because I've gotten multiple tickets, that a lot of our traffic enforcement can be done via camera. Hell, I've even said that if you take all of the fines and fees that are garnered via traffic enforcement in a year, I'm just going to throw a number out there because I don't know what the number might be. Let's just say it's $1 million. If your municipality makes $1 million a year on traffic fines for speeding, for, late tags, whatever it is, tail lights being out, I would rather see the county or the municipality just tax that, dividable by all of the people that live in that area, and then raise it every year based on cost of living or inflation, and just take that aspect of policing off the table, right? Because the traffic enforcement, the stopping of people on the roads, that is what is leading to a large number of these issues. And there's ways that we can still maintain the traffic in terms of the stoplight cameras, the speeding cameras, all of that stuff, and take that one aspect that is leading to so many negative issues completely off the table. Another would be property control. Property control for private and personal property can all be done by private security. That's something that we're already doing in many states, retail establishments, city patrols. Here in Portland, city patrols are big for private security companies. Take it completely off the table. Why? Well, if you're in a city like Portland, where we're already not enforcing laws as it is, we're not enforcing drug laws, we're not enforcing vagrancy laws, we're not enforcing loitering or outdoor camping, why do we have police officers then spending their time or wasting their time patrolling the downtown area? Put them in a situation where they can be better utilized somewhere else. Clearly, there's no reason to have them downtown because they're not doing anything down there anyway, in our city anyway, right? That goes into foot patrols as well. Mental health response. There's been multiple situations where officers are responding to mental health crisis, and that leads to someone getting hurt or harmed on either side of the equation. Unfortunately, there's just not enough training to go around. There's not enough time to train the officers in the tactics and the training that they need to accomplish their job as it is. And then adding the component or the element of mental health response, I think, is an issue. I would rather see that downsized and have more people that are in the mental health field deal with that. If it gets to a point where something happens and they need police to respond to that situation, I think that that's something that could be addressed. But I do not believe that police officers should be handling mental health issues. And then limited school placement. We talk about placing police officers in school. I think that we need to have armed response in schools. One of the benefits of private security, and when I say private security, I'm not talking about Allied Universal. I'm not talking about Securitas. I'm not even talking about the company that I work for. I'm talking about privatized security of the level of privatized military level security. One of the benefits of having people that are working in that capacity is that when you work for a private corporation, the exchange of service is surface level. You're paying me for a task. You're paying me for a certain way for me to engage or a certain way for me to respond to situations. We have it written in a contract. You pay me, I show up, I do what you're asking me to do, and I go home. There's too much of a deeper, how do I want to say this? There's too much of a deeper connection when it comes to law enforcement. People are attaching themselves to that job. They're attaching themselves to that community. They're attaching themselves to that line. And I think that too often the history of what goes into law enforcement, the bad blood between certain departments and certain communities or demographics, that bleeds over into issues. And I don't know that having police officers in the school in large numbers is a positive thing, because we have seen that in certain areas with certain demographics and certain people that can be problematic, and it's problematic on both sides of the equation, right? I'm not absolving the people on the other side of that who are causing those problems as well. But when it's private security, it's a private entity, right? So I would rather see a private entity be the armed response in schools. But in that regard, where are some of the areas where we need law enforcement more, right? The top 5 areas where they are most needed. Guys, listen, emergency response and crisis management. Emergencies of a level of a state emergency, a citywide emergency, municipal emergency, crisis management like terrorism, active shooters, major incidents. That's where the police, in my opinion, need to be putting the lion's share of their focus. Number 2, clearly, is crime investigation related to law enforcement. Someone's got to investigate the crime. Someone has to be able to understand, articulate, and apply the charges when those are necessary in certain situations. Number 3 would be transportation and introduction of apprehension, or those apprehended, into the justice system. The one thing that the person I talked to yesterday, who was a former law enforcement officer, said was that the primary job of the police officers is to introduce the criminal into the justice system. And I thought that was a great answer. Their job is to introduce the criminal into the justice system. Whatever the person has done, whatever the person has been accused of, whatever the person has been found guilty of, their job is to introduce that person into that system. That is something that a security guard cannot do. That's something that the average person cannot do. Law enforcement is needed for that. Number 4, traffic investigation related to incidents or accidents. Again, that's something that private security can't do. Private military contractors cannot do. This comes down to the application of laws, right? I think that more individual accountability, more individual responsibility on the part of the citizen would be better served than us having this idea that the police are there to take care of all of our problems. Number 5, I leave open to you guys. What's one thing that I've missed? You've heard my spiel on this. You've heard my thoughts on this. What is one area that I've missed where law enforcement is needed that I didn't think about or I didn't put up here? Let's get a couple of these comments in here. Let's see here. So he says, security guards fight with each other all the time. Why should it be different when it comes to police? I agree. Absolutely. PBE, get out of my face, back up, chill out. Yep. Warden says tens of billions of dollars. Absolutely unacceptable. Absolutely. I agree. G-Plan. The system has been compromised and it can't be fixed. Do you guys agree with that? Look, at the end of the day, take everything that I've said with a grain of salt. Let's just say that I'm wrong on everything. Is the way that things are going right now working? I'm not saying that anyone is culpable or responsible. I'm pointing out the situation as it is. If we're sinking, if we're drowning, someone has to say so. And I'm pointing at the situation and saying that what's happening right now is not working. Okay? Do you feel like the generalization of police officers, do you feel that they are upholding the Constitution in a general sense? And generalizations are there for a reason, right? You watch First Amendment audits, are they upholding the First Amendment? In most situations, when someone is stopped or being questioned or, having an interaction, is the Fourth Amendment being respected? Right now with the ATF, the FBI, are they respecting the Second Amendment? Like, somebody's lying here. Okay? Now, if I'm wrong, somebody somewhere is lying, because we don't have all of the things that are happening right now from the top of our government to the absolute bottom of our government, where all of our rights are under attack. You can type in right now on YouTube and you can see people that are being detained and handcuffed for exercising their First Amendment. You can see people that are being pulled over and stopped on the side of the road for minor infractions that's leading to them getting shot or leading to them shooting a police officer. Somebody somewhere is not telling the truth. If I'm wrong, then tell me where I'm wrong at, because I'm opening my eyes and I'm watching these situations. I'm reading these numbers in terms of the amount of money that the taxpayers are footing out in settlements, the amount of money that's being spent to replace businesses from uprisings and people going crazy over situations. Like, either I'm misunderstanding something or somebody's lying. Police officers are leaving in droves. People aren't willing to become cops. Why? Something's going on somewhere, right? Clearly, I'm not just, making this stuff up. There's a problem somewhere, and I don't feel like there is a honest conversation that's being had in terms of trying to find a way to mitigate these issues and fix this problem. And all of you as taxpayers should be saying, okay, something has to change. We cannot continue to go on like this. We can't continue to have, these problems and these issues and all of this stuff flaring up every 3 or 4 years. We can't continue to do this. Okay? Let's see what we got here. Henry Ross, I don't plan. It's not going to work. If people could protect themselves in a domestic violence situation, they will call the police. Most police officers catch fugitives in traffic stops and police raids. Okay. Sean is here. He says, good evening. Good evening, Sean. Henry Ross, police need to respond to mental health calls. Most individuals in that state of mind carry knives. You and security should know this. I agree. They do. They do. The question is that why have we trained the public to not be ready to respond in kind? See, we've trained everyone to think that when you're in a situation where someone is dangerous, that you need to call the police. That's what we've trained people to do. The average person does not feel that it's their responsibility to take care of themselves in that situation. You ask your mom, you ask your sister, you ask the average person on the street, if someone is doing X, Y, and Z, whose responsibility is it to deal with that? Most people are going to tell you that it's someone else's responsibility to do that. Whether that's the police or whether that's some alpha male, we've all been kind of raised to think that someone else is supposed to handle that. No, you're supposed to handle that, right? Okay, so the crazy person who's having a mental episode has a knife. What do you have? Why have you been led to believe that you're supposed to be helpless in that situation? That's my point. That's the fallacy that we've created around personal responsibility, personal accountability when it comes to taking care of yourself and taking care of your family. That's not okay. Warden says, I believe mental health specialists should take mental health calls as well, even if needed. If they want, they can carry a taser or pepper spray just in case, and some self-defense without lethal. Okay. Henry Ross, yes, police are living up to the Constitution. All right. Mr. Morris says, the government opens our borders to everyone. And now there's talk in DC about exchanging citizenship for enlistment. Sounds like a coup to me. You guys are aware that in California, the great Governor Gavin Newsom is putting forth legislation to allow illegal immigrants to become police officers. This would give someone who is not beholden to the United States Constitution the authority to take and withhold from you your constitutional rights. Let me say this again. If an illegal immigrant or a non-citizen is able to become a police officer, someone that is not beholden to the Constitution would have the authority to withhold or remove your constitutional rights from you. That person were to pull you over and search you, they are removing your Fourth Amendment constitutionally protected rights, right? If they were to follow, let's say, an order from the governor or some other 3-letter organization to go and take your firearms and take away your Second Amendment right, they're not, breaking any constitutional laws because they aren't beholden to the Constitution. Guys, again, this is just yet another issue of where is this going? The simple fact that we have the potential to have illegal immigrants being police officers should say everything that you need to know about the state of that. I don't want to say branch of government, but that industry. And I'm not hearing a lot of police officers speak out against that. If anybody else is, please let me know, but I haven't seen anything, right? PBE says, I personally believe actual law enforcement don't know the laws, just like the attorneys, judges, and district attorneys, which always fall to state and federal legislation. That is a good thought. Warden, the government 90% of the time lies, with 10% of the time giving you selective fact they want you to know. We're at a point where things nationwide will only change when we realize how comfortable it is here and stop chasing shiny things, more comfort in someone else to help. So we have Sean here. Sean, I hope you're still in the building. What are your thoughts on law enforcement? And let me ask you this question specifically. Actually, you know what? Let's see if we can get Sean on here. Let me see here. Everybody stand by. Sean, would you be willing to come on to the stream? Let's see if we can get Sean on the stream here. Hang on. I'm going to invite Sean. Sean, I would love to have you come on to the stream and have a conversation with us here. Hang on here. I'm going to post this right here. Sean, if you just click on the link that I put into the chat, you can actually come on to the stream and we can have this conversation. This would be great. Let's give Sean a second here, guys. And while we're at it, anyone, let's see, he says he was here. He came in. Anyone that wants to jump into this stream, feel free to take that link and come on in. Let's have a conversation. Can you guys see that link? Somebody say yes or no in the chat if you can see the link that I just put in there. Can you guys see that link? It's right here. If you guys copy and paste that link, it'll bring you into the stream. Let's see if we can get Sean up here. We'll give him Moore says, yep. Everybody sees the link. Sean, if you're here, go ahead and jump on. We'll give him 10 more seconds here to see if he comes on. Okay. Well, we'll just assume that he's not coming on. But anybody else that wants to come onto the link and have this conversation, I'd be more than happy to talk about it. I do want to know what you guys think. Am I off base here? And I feel like we can, even having this conversation, I feel like I'm stepping on a line, and I don't want to feel that way. I just look at the situation as it is. It's not working. It's not working. The training that if you listen to Mike Glover, one thing that he says in every conversation is that our police officers need more training. The cops don't need more training. They don't. They simply don't. They don't. For what they're doing, what they are involved in, I do not feel that the vast majority of police officers need more training. Maybe more time in training, but I don't think that we need to allocate more money for them to train, specifically if that training is going to be to put them in a position where it's tactical training. I'm all for training in de-escalation. I'm all for training in dealing with people in a better way. I'm all for stress management. I'm all for anything that can get us out of where we currently are into a different place. And when I say that, I do not mean DEI. I do not mean any woke policies. I support law enforcement. I support what they do, but the way that it's going right now is just not working, guys. It's not working. Okay. We got a comment here. Let's see what we got. If you do another stream tomorrow, I'm off and would love to come on and chop it up on some subjects at the office until tomorrow, so I can only watch and type until now. Hey, man, it's all good, bro. It's all good. All right. So it kind of threw me off with Sean coming in here. I thought maybe we could get him on the stream and have this conversation. I would love to have a law enforcement officer give me his opinion on what we're talking about here. But guys, listen, put your comments in this video once the stream is up. Let me know what you think. Should we have this conversation about what's going on in law enforcement? Do we need to change the way that things are doing? I don't say that in terms of reimagining it, like defund the police. I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that at all. But something has got to give. Something has got to change. We cannot have police officers mag dumping into a vehicle. We can't have cops and sheriff's deputies arguing with each other while someone's being held hostage somewhere. That's absolutely lunacy and out of control. But I will leave it to you guys in the comments to discuss, and we will talk about this a little bit later in the future. All right. Oh, wait, hang on. Whoa. Hang on. Everybody stand by. Warden.
Hello, sir. Hello, sir.
Yo, what is going on, brother? I'm glad you took the opportunity to jump on here. I appreciate that.
Yeah, I just had to take the dogs out for a minute because they was going insane.
You said what's going on insane?
Dogs.
Oh, yeah, you got dogs, yeah. What kind of dogs
I got
you
3 dogs. I have 1 Rottweiler, I have 1 Pit Bull mix, and I have 1 Poodle mix.
So, hey, a comment just came through from Chris Matson. He says, if you pay attention to the media, you would think that it's a big issue. I would say that it's an issue, but the media is blowing it out of proportion, or blowing it more out of proportion than it is. Anytime that anybody ever says that, I always remind them that when we're talking about law enforcement, we're talking about people's civil liberties. You can blow out of proportion the level of egregiousness that security guards are operating with, right? You can blow out of proportion whether or not we're wearing too much tactical gear. But there is no acceptable limit of failure for someone's rights being violated. So whether that's their 4th Amendment right, their 1st Amendment right, or taking of someone's life, and that's on either side of the equation. So I would say that maybe it's not as widespread across the board as some people are making it out to be, but we don't want there to be any, unlawful loss of life. We don't want there to be any situation where, police are in some sort of jeopardy that they don't have to be in, or the public is in some sort of jeopardy that they don't have to be in. Warden, what's your thoughts on the subject that we're talking about tonight?
To tell you the truth, I think that law enforcement, they know what they're doing most of the time. It's not really a training issue. Everybody always says the training, that's the training. The training doesn't count unless they're in SWAT. That's how I see things. because the main training that they do in, you say just the regular beat cop, just patrolling the streets. It's learning how to shoot, learning how to do tactical driving. I say there's more criminals out there that know how to drive better than cops.
Right.
So it's like, all to say we need more training, it doesn't. That's a waste of money at that point.
Yeah, because like, when it comes to basic firearms, that situation with the cop shooting into the vehicle, that's firearm safety 101. That's NRA basic pistol course. Positive identification, knowing your backstop, knowing what you're shooting at. That's not a training issue. That is a basic failure of all of the firearm safety rules. And it gets explained away because it's a police officer. And that to me is the biggest issue. And what led to this entire conversation is like, I'm not seeing a lot of cops. I'm not seeing a lot of people, even at that like gun tuber side, Mike Glover, these people who are really big and famous. They're not coming out and saying that is absolutely egregious. That's not okay. Now, I have, as of yesterday, started to see more people saying that. But at the beginning, most people just kind of always lean to taking the side of law enforcement and kind of explaining it away as a training issue. I feel like that's a catch-all. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I agree with the same thing. I hate when people, I don't know what it is. I think people stay with the old mindset of law enforcement's there to protect and serve and be the great protector and the guardian of everybody. And it's never really been like that ever. Because if you go back in the old times, it's never been an honorable job. They want you to think that it's been an honorable job, but it's never really been an honorable job.
You don't think that it's a job that, when you say it's not an honorable job, why do you say that?
Well, back then when law enforcement became a thing, they never go in the aspect of telling you the truth. They just want you to know that they've always had a hard job. They've always been shot at, or they've done something that, you have to make us feel bad or something for them. I don't know, it's been a very, very wineable thing. Like the what was his name? He was I think the president of the Fraternal Order of Police. He was talking about, we got y'all numbers now. We gonna be looking for y'all. And when they was talking about how law enforcement was no longer able to protect and how they was no longer able to serve, so why would we be paying them all this money? So why not just defund them?
Well, I mean, look, I would say that, any job is honorable, right? If you're working, you're doing your job, you're doing it to the best of your ability, your mindset, your thought process, and the reason why you're doing it is just, then it's an honorable job. I don't think that the job in and of itself is honorable. It's like people say, well, you're honorable for joining the military. Well, I was in the military. I know a lot of dirtbags that were in the military, right? It's honorable if you're there for the right reason and your heart and your mind is in the right place. I think that we owe a debt of gratitude to police officers for signing up for that job, because someone does have to do it. That's no different than security, right? Like somebody needs to serve in that position, but that does not absolve the actions that come along with it. We are all, if you're working in the security industry, we are held to such a high standard in terms of, if we were to do, a fraction of some of the things that they get away with, that wouldn't be okay. And I don't think that we can explain it away because they're sworn by the state or that they've gone through, some sort of program or training. That's not okay. And it wouldn't be okay as a soldier. I'm not okay with soldiers doing things and getting away with it because they're soldiers. So I would push back a little bit and say that I think it's an honorable job. But like I said earlier, man, being a doctor is an honorable job. Being a garbage man is an honorable job. You know, Chris Madsen says Mike Glover wasn't making excuses for it or supporting what he did, but he was looking at what was going on and talking about the science of what was going on. I've heard that before. Mike made about 3 videos, and this is not the bash Mike Glover hour. Guys, I have paid good money to go train with Mike Glover. I think that he's phenomenal with what he does. The man, you know, he's done 900,000 more things than I will ever be able to do, and I would not want to be on his bad side either. So this is not the bash Mike Glover hour. But you know, listen, that situation with the cop and the acorn, that is a very simple conversation. I don't need to hear about the parasympathetic stress when someone is violating the 4 basic firearm safety rules. That's it. I don't want to hear it. There's no conversation to be had. There's no discussion. You're shooting into a vehicle blindly. It's wrong. Point blank, end, period. And for someone of his level and his stature and his experience to not say that and be the first video that you make, you do a disservice to the 2A community, because the people who want to come for our firearms, they look to the people that we all look up to, and they go, if you can't say that that's wrong, then you have just devalued and de-justified every argument that you have. You know what I mean? So
no, yeah, I agree with that.
That was my thought on that. Isaiah Wagner, hang on a second. Isaiah Wagner says it's an honorable job, not even close. They put their lives on the line. And then he follows that up with, what profession do you work in that you have to kiss your family goodbye for the last time every time because the probability of death? Isaiah, that is a fallacy that we have all been led to believe. Everyone will tell you, hey, the cops, they have to kiss their wives goodbye and they don't know if they're going to come home. I hate to inform you, Isaiah, that is your reality every day when you go to work. I don't care if you work as an ice cream scooper. Mm-hmm. You live in America, my man. You walk out your door, a crackhead could kill you. The fact that you come home every night, the fact that I come home every night, the fact that Warden comes home every night, that every single person comes home every night, that is the grace of God. It has nothing to do with your job. Are they putting themselves in more danger by walking up to a vehicle? Yes, which is exactly why I said we should take walking up to a vehicle off the table. Short of there being a major situation that they have to respond to with a SWAT team, I don't think that a lot of these issues should be placed on their plate, because, yeah, they are increasing their opportunity by putting themselves in situations where they are face to face with common criminals. But each and every one of us in our daily life are walking amongst those same common criminals. And it's only because of the criminal's decision to not do something that we're not put in that same situation. It's not a job situation. We're all dealing with that shit.
Yeah, I agree, because see, my job that I chose to do is more being a bondsman. So you talking about executing bail bonds for people that skipped court for money that you put out for them. So I think I misspoke when I said honorable. I think I was looking for just the word that I just spewed out there, but it's something that being in law enforcement, it's a very easy job you could be very corruptible.
Yeah.
You could be corrupted very easily. All it takes is for your sheriff, your chief, anybody, just your captain, your lieutenant, even your sergeant, just look at you and just say, chill out. Don't do it. Don't say anything. If you do, I can't protect you after that. And to hear that some of them say that they can't protect you, and they're supposed to be the higher ups, they're supposed to be management the supervisors and such. I think that'll turn you into one of them very quickly.
Yeah,
because you don't want to just join the regular work side. You love this job. You love what it brings to the table. Shit, the pay is getting better in these jobs. Of course, some security jobs still pay a lot better, but it's starting to get to that point where they're starting to say we need more.
Yeah.
So they're starting to raise the price and everything to pay. But I still think like qualified immunity needs to go. They need to think long and hard before they even think about making an interaction, because you never know if that interaction is BS.
Yeah, there needs to be some changes, definitely. And again, I don't have all the answers, but my point in having this conversation is that I don't see where people are approaching the topic or the subject. You have people that are just blindly saying negative things about police, and I don't agree with that. And then you have people that blindly are in support of police no matter what they do, and I don't agree with that. Any one of our family members could have been in that situation in either one of those videos that I showed. There's a video where someone got arrested, someone got detained, and they put the lady in the back of the car and they fucking parked the car on the damn train tracks.
Yeah. That was ridiculous.
I
don't understand that.
So it's not a situation where, the people that are working in law enforcement, they're people. They're people, they're good people, but they're people and they're fallible. They make mistakes. And it's okay in any profession to say you made a mistake. And for whatever reason, that's my message tonight. For whatever reason, it's not okay to say to a police officer, you made a mistake. And that to me is a problem. That's a problem. Yeah. Because I have family, you have family, I have kids, man. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want someone to do something to one of my children and it get explained away. I don't think that's okay. So I respect the job that they're doing. I respect the position that they're placed in. I respect the position that all of us are placed in. But, this specific situation that happened with this guy in the Acorn, that shit's crazy and it's got to go. Bromore says the tribal mentality is the continual downfall of our society. And Chris says it takes two to tango. I'm assuming what you're saying by that, Chris, is that in these situations where people are finding themselves that if they wouldn't have done what they did, they wouldn't be in that position. And you know what? I have to agree with you, bro. Like, at the end of the day, everybody's culpable, right? The citizen that does X, Y, and Z has to also take the responsibility for that as well. And I agree with you. So I'm not absolving people of that. He backs that up with police officers don't automatically get qualified. Automatically, they need to qualify for it. They need to be following the law and their department policies. The problem with that is that can be subjective based on the situation. And, things can sometimes get bent to fall in their favor. You guys have to remember that if a police officer is found to have violated someone's rights, found to have broken the law, okay, now the city is responsible for that. They have to pay out. So most of the times when they do these investigations, they're going to find that the officer didn't violate a policy. You might see that officer ends up getting fired or maybe automatically resigns of his own volition. But the reason for that is because if they were to investigate and say, yeah, this person violated this person's Fourth Amendment, they violated this person's First Amendment, then they're responsible for that. And they don't want to continually have to pay out. So more times than not, you find that these situations happen. We watch the video and it's clear to everybody who's watching it with a pair of fucking eyes. And then the cop somehow is not found to be in violation or having done something wrong. That's by design, guys. That's by design. And again, this is one of those conversations where I almost feel uneasy saying it, but it's the truth. Anyone that can critically think and look at a situation would be like, yeah, that's probably how it's happening. That's probably how it's going. And that can't be something that we're okay with. It just can't. This can't be the kind of world we're living in, guys. Anime Hello, Wall. Yeah, go ahead.
I think it's just in this world that we live in, things are just so conscrewed and so confusing that it's not everything. People just don't know how many laws and how many steps and turns and curves that the government has made that they don't realize that, yeah, there's so many ways that you could get caught, but you could get away with some things if you just, first of all, stop sharing things with others. That'll be the perfect thing, because I see so many people just sharing things online, videotaping themselves. I'm like, wow, why do you do that?
Yeah, you're putting yourself in a bad position.
Yeah, it's like, I know this new, oh Lord, this new generation. It's getting worse and worse. Hopefully, I think just by education system and influence and these gangs and stuff.
Yeah,
but I think mainly with these communities, especially the Black community, I think they need to actually start focus on getting together and creating like more community defense organizations.
You mean like just taking more responsibility for policing their own areas?
That and more like creating borders. All these gangs and everything, they get into your system and then they can also start jacking everything up. The shooting and everything, messing up your community's economy. It messes everything up.
Well, I feel like this conversation is going to veer into another topic, and we can definitely address that. But I want to we'll save the ills of the Black community. I could do a damn series on the Black community, man. You know what I mean? Like I could do a part 1 through 700 on the issues that are related to the Black community. So we'll cut it off there. I've been on here for about an hour, and I got to go and take care of my wife and dog and stuff. So, guys, look, this is just one of many conversations. Like, again, I don't have all the answers. I want to bring up these subjects and these topics. I want to talk about them. I want to get your opinion. And when I put that link up, you guys are always welcome to come into the stream, because shit, man, I'm just one person asking these questions and I don't have all the answers. I love to hear your positions and your thoughts on these things. And I would love to have you guys join me for these conversations. So let me go ahead and Warden, hey, I want to thank you for coming on, bro. I'm gonna go ahead and get you off. Okay.
Yeah, I just want to say, apologize for the anonymous look here. I'm not in the possibly great place. We're on a stakeout. And so I'm just, watching this house, and I'm trying to say, I'm trying to stay anonymous, and
you're fine. We appreciate you, man.
Thank you, brother.
All right, guys, we're gonna go ahead and end it there tonight. This was a great topic, and we'll readdress it. We'll come back to it. I appreciate everybody for joining us tonight. As always, watch your six, be careful, and be great. Okay.
I'm gonna go ahead. I'm running up in right kind of on what? Nigga, shit so fucking hard, yeah. What? Sad,